Hi, I'm Maggie. Thank you for stopping by Crafts the Charm today. I'm so glad you're here. In my work, it is my privilege to work with a diversity of people, and I decided that I wanted to make an inclusive lanyard so that the people whom I serve could see before I even speak to them that I'm supportive of them and that I see them. So I have an old lanyard here that I'm going to cannibalize because I have so many lanyards, there was no reason to buy lanyard parts. And I have 3 different kinds of ribbon here, and I purchased all of these through Amazon. I did look at local stores for ribbons that would work for me, and I couldn't find any. So I just measured out and wrote down the lengths of the ribbon pieces of this lanyard because it does have a few different pieces, and then I cut it apart. Now for the black ribbon, I'm going to use the Black Lives Matter logo. So the black ribbon will be the black background of that logo. And I did take a copy of that logo from Wikipedia. And what I'm going to do now is make it into 3 images that I can import into Cricut Design Space. So I'm basically creating one piece that is black, another piece that is matter, that is just the letters. But for the lives, it's going to be the rectangle with the letters cut out of it. And I imported that into Cricut Design Space, shrunk it down so that it would fit on my ribbon, and lined them up and attached them so that when I had them cut out by my Cricut machine, when I clicked the Make button, Cricut Design Space wouldn't reorganize them on the page. I also did mirror so that when I place it down, it will not be backwards. And then I made that out of white heat transfer vinyl. Now I did 2 of these because I want the lanyard to look somewhat symmetrical, so I'm going to have the Black Lives Matter pieces on both sides on the top. I was a little challenged to weed this, and so when I made the second one, I made sure to tell the Cricut to use a little bit harder pressure when it was cutting. And then I just ironed that onto the ribbon. I left a lot of ribbon to the left of it because I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to place the ribbon because I want this, again, I want it to be symmetrical. I have other ribbons that I'm going to attach to it, and I have plenty of this black ribbon, but I really didn't need that long of a tail on the left side. Now the other 2 groups that I'm going to include on this lanyard are the LGBTQ plus community. So I have a pride flag ribbon, and that one I don't have to do anything to, and that's a nice grosgrain ribbon. Now for the other one, I have this sort of, I'm going to describe it as a sort of ombre rainbow, and this is for the symbol for neurodiversity, which is a rainbow like this but formed into an infinity symbol. Originally, I thought maybe I could somehow form this into an infinity symbol as part of the lanyard, but that wasn't working. I tried. It wasn't working for me in a way that I thought would look any good. So what I decided to do instead was to use the Cricut to cut out an infinity symbol out of gold heat transfer vinyl, and I transferred that to the ribbon. And this was a grosgrain ribbon. I wasn't sure if I would be able to transfer heat transfer vinyl to grosgrain ribbon, but I was. So I wish I'd gotten grosgrain ribbon for the Black Lives Matter. What I have there is satin ribbon, and I don't like it as much. If I decide to remake this lanyard at some point, I think I would get grosgrain ribbon for the Black Lives Matter as well. Okay, so with those ribbons all prepared, I then attached the ribbon to the different pieces of the lanyard using clips. And one thing to bear in mind is that little, the clasp at the back isn't really symmetrical. So once you clasp it, the ribbon on one side is pulled a little bit to the other side because it covers most of the other clasp. So where I attached the two Black Lives Matter ribbons is going to be different on each side. But what I did was I, again, slid the ribbons between the pieces and attached the ribbons together so that I have Black Lives Matter at the top and then the two rainbows attached to the Black Lives Matter, and then coming down to a V at that bottom piece, which is going to attach to the piece that will attach to my ID and other things that I have on my lanyard. And then with it all clipped together like that, I tried it on and made adjustments, and I ended up adjusting it to be quite a bit shorter. It was always sort of a long lanyard. So really I've got the rainbow ribbons right up against Matter in Black Lives Matter, and the B in Black Lives Matter right up against the clasp at the top. And then once I did have that all the way I wanted it, I began to sew it. And I am using a zipper foot because I am going to have to get very close to that clasp at the top when I sew this, and also for that little bottom clasp on that bottom piece. So I just folded it over, did a straight stitch, and then where I could I did a zigzag stitch over it as well. When I went back and looked at the original lanyard, that ribbon wasn't folded over at all. So I probably shouldn't have tried to do the folding over. I was folding over and ironing and trying to make it look neat that way, but I found it very challenging. So I'd say you probably don't need to get quite that fancy with the ribbon. Just cut it and stitch across it, and I think it would look neater that way as well. So I did the two Black Lives Matter pieces to the clasps at the top, and then I sewed each of those pieces to the rainbow ribbon. So that involved sewing the wrong sides together and then trimming it, and my goal here was to have those rainbow ribbons even when it's hanging, so I wanted it as symmetrical as possible. And then with the rainbow ribbon slid through that bottom piece, I sewed those two rainbow ribbons together. And those are sewn wrong sides together because one of them is going to flow down into the piece, and then it will flip back over and flow back up. So when it flips over, even though we're looking at the wrong side of one ribbon, when it flips over, now we're looking at the right side. And that can be adjusted somewhat because it's just going through that piece. And then the little black ribbon on the bottom is a piece of ribbon that is just sewn together. I didn't try to get too fancy with that because the piece is very small and it was difficult to fit into my sewing machine. So I just sewed basically one piece on top of the other piece. And that was all. So I was really happy to have this lanyard for work. It's bright and cheery and it sends an inclusive message. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. If you've ever made this sort of thing or sewn ribbon before, maybe you have some tips for me for making it look nice. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy this sort of content, please subscribe to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.